She posted a "Do Not Date" warning across the orbital concourse. The time captain read it once, then stepped forward anyway. If fate was a closed door, he intended to knock until the hinges failed. The warning hung like a scarlet ribbon across the public net, pulsing on hollow kiosks between shuttle gates and tea vendors. A slender elven woman with starlight hair, her expression guarded her message simple: "Do not seek me, do not court me, do not follow." The post ran under a pseudonym, but anyone who had walked the salvage lanes of Orion Spoke knew those gray eyes and the quiet way she handled her crates. Evelyn Starbloom never raised her voice. She let the dragons do it for her. They were small as dragons went, each scarcely longer than her forearm, all sleek angles and scaled wings that glimmered with heat. She called them Ember and Lumen, and they watched strangers with bright, ancient suspicion. People gave Evelyn space the way sailors give space to reefs, respectfully, fearfully. Rumors stuck to her like microdust, that she had walked through a vacuum fire and come away with new lungs, that she spoke to engines the way some spoke to dogs, that she worked for the time captain and broke his heart, or that he broke hers. He arrived on the afternoon transit, just before the tide of commuters swelled. His uniform coat was plain black, the austere cut of it hiding more than it revealed. He wore no rank tokens except a subtle pin at the throat, a polished spiral whose metal caught and bent the station lights. He paused at the kiosk where the warning glowed, read it without flinching, and then turned toward the freight bay as if it were a road he had memorized years ago. The freight bay air smelled of ozone and hot metal. Evelyn stood beside a stack of heat-sealed crates, checking seals with a gloved finger. Ember perched on the crate corners, tail flicking in small, anxious rhythms. Lumen curled around Evelyn's shoulders like a living scarf, blowing a thread of pale smoke that melted in the cool air. She didn't look up when Boots approached, but the dragons did. Ember's chest scales flushed brighter, a note of warning thrumming low in his throat. "I read your notice," the time captain said. Evelyn finally lifted her eyes. Up close they were the color of the station's night cycle gray, with a hint of blue at the edges, soft but unyielding. "Then you know what it means," she replied. "It means you're trying to do a kind thing the wrong way," he said, and there was gentleness in it, but also iron. "It means someone tried to write your future for you, and you believed them." Her laugh was small and brittle. "Believe me, Captain, I'm the one who wrote it." He inclined his head. "Then why does it sound like a voice I recognize, and not yours?" She returned to her seals, but he saw the rhythm of her hand falter. Ember's tail stilled. Lumen's smoke thread ceased. Around them the bay clattered on bots trundled overhead on rails. Workers called for clearance. A warning bell trilled as a cargo handler rolled past, but their corner of the world went quiet. "Because you do recognize it," Evelyn said softly. "Because once you told me the future like it was a kindness. You said that proximity to you is a shard of glass, bright and beautiful and very sharp." He took a slow breath. He hadn't expected her to cut straight to the past. The last time they had shared a room, he had been a man on a ladder, climbing away before the flames could reach the people below. Time travel wasn't what Holivid's promised. It was patchwork and arithmetic, a navigation of probabilities, 1,000 tiny compromises made in exchange for one saved life. He had tried to keep Evelyn outside of it. He had failed. "You trained dragons," he said, not because it mattered, but because he needed to stand on ordinary ground for a moment. "They trained me," she answered. "Ember bites anyone who assumes." The time captain let a smile edge into his voice. "Then I'll ask instead, why the notice?" Evelyn smoothed her palm over the crate, as if the metal could answer for her. When she spoke, the words were careful. "I have been marked, Captain. There are contracts stamped on my name in places where air tastes of oil. People who want what I know, or who think that if they cannot have me, no one should." She lifted her chin. "If I make myself unlovable, perhaps I make myself less useful." He stepped closer by a single pace, nothing more. "I don't accept that equation." "Of course you don't," she said. You are the time captain. You think all equations balance if you stare at them long enough. It's not staring, he said. It's work. Ember's warning note softened, like a string instrument tuned down a breath. Lumen's wingtips brushed Evelyn's collarbone. The dragons were mirrors for her heart. Anyone could read the change in their posture. Do you remember the Morrow Spire? The captain asked, voice low. Evelyn's mouth softened at the corners. Morrow Spire had been a tower of glass that sang in the wind, a research station grafted onto a comet's back. They had stood on its rim together and watched the starfield skid by, and he had told her that the trick of time wasn't to move through it like a spear, but like a thread, pulling gently, never snapping the weave. Hours after that, the tower had torn loose in a meteor spray, and he had disappeared for 3 weeks that took him 3 minutes. When he returned, the spire still stood, but their scaffolding of trust had cracked. I remember, she said. I failed you then, he said simply. I thought I protected you by leaving you out of the line of fire. All I did was move the fire to your back. I won't repeat that mistake. She shook her head, a small and weary motion. You can't promise that. You live in the crosshairs of fate. So do you, he said. You just post better notices. For a heartbeat, the glimmer of a smile. Then it was gone. If you came to argue, I'm closed. If you came to hire me, the answer is no. If you came to say goodbye, I already did. I came to speak a different word, he said. Challenge accepted. Her eyes flared. Ember lifted his head. Lumen's tail tightened around her neck as if to anchor them both. You think romance is a contest, she said. No, he said, and there was a roughness in his tone that surprised even him. I think fear is a contest. And I refuse to let it win. Somewhere above them, a shuttle vented, the sound like a distant ocean. The captain reached slowly into his coat and withdrew a palm-sized cube, its facets etched with sigils that looked like constellations. He set it on the crate and tapped a corner. The cube unfolded into a holomap, a translucent spiral of time-stamped events, branching like coral. Evelyn stared. The dragons went still as stones. These are projections, he said. 5 probable pathways for the next 9 days, all centered on your name. I found 3 contract tracers watching the concourse, 2 on the cargo decks, 1 already mapping your flight plan for tomorrow. None of them are good at what they do. One of them is excellent. Her breath hitched. Where? Behind you, he said gently. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. Ember hissed, a thin ribbon of heat. Lumen's pupils narrowed to slits. The captain shifted his weight, not a threat, not a leap, merely placing himself between her and the open walkway. A figure had paused just beyond the bay's threshold, a man with a courier's bag and a technician's badge, the sort of face that dissolved into crowds. He was too relaxed. That was the tell. You promised not to repeat mistakes, Evelyn murmured. What does that look like now? It looks like asking, the captain said. Do I have permission to act? She waited for a single breath. Ember's bright head bobbed once, a knot in miniature. Lumen's tail loosened. You do, she said. The captain turned as if he were part of the station's rhythm, a worker answering a call. He stepped into the open lane, lifted his hand, and hailed the courier with the casual authority of a man whose jurisdiction was everything that ticked. The courier glanced up, and in that glance the captain saw the truth. The eyes too cold, the posture of someone cataloging exits. Excuse me, the captain said, his voice easy. You dropped this. He offered a coin. It wasn't money. It was a gravity seed, bright as a fallen star. When the courier reached instinctively, the seed pulsed, and the floor around his boots gained weight. Not enough to harm, enough to root him. Security, the captain called, mild as rain. We have a trespasser in a restricted freight zone. The man tried to speak. The seed swallowed the sound. 2 station guards peeled from their post as if they had been waiting for this cue. In less than a minute, the corridor was empty again, but for the echo and the aftertaste of adrenaline. Evelyn exhaled, the sound small and dangerous. "That was neat," she said. "It was necessary," he answered. "Neat is for gardens." She looked at him, really looked, and he let her. Whatever she measured there seemed to pass muster, or perhaps she was too tired to resist Hope's small hand on her sleeve. "Fine," she said. "Challenge accepted. But I set terms." "I'm listening," he said. "Protect my dragons," she said. "Protect my name. And if you must vanish again, leave me a map," he nodded. "Done." Above them, the concourse clock slid toward night cycle. The warning notice still pulsed on the kiosks, a taut line stitched through the station. The time captain glanced at it, then back to Evelyn, to Ember's bright wariness and Lumen's soft vigilance. "First term," he said quietly. "Take down the notice." "Not yet," she replied. And for the first time that day, her voice held a spark he remembered from Morrow's Spire. "Let them underestimate me a little longer." He smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. "Then we make our own notice." "What does it say?" she asked. He closed the holomap, and the cube folded itself into a star. "It says, 'Do not threaten the woman with dragons.'" The next morning, the orbital dawn crawled across Orion's spoke's shell-thin silver light that trembled against the station's curve before bleeding into the deep blue of space. Evelyn woke to the hum of vents and the slow, rhythmic heartbeat of the station's spin. Her dragon stirred first. Ember blinked awake and hissed at the window tint, while Lumen slithered down her shoulder and coiled near the heat vent, chasing warmth. Evelyn rubbed sleep from her eyes and checked the cargo manifest on her wristband. The contracts were shifting faster than she'd predicted, new buyers, new routes, all coded beneath names she didn't recognize. The captain's warning echoed through her. 5 probable pathways, 9 days. She had lived too long trusting no one's maps but her own, yet somehow his made more sense than hers. Her quarters were small but lived in, 2 bunks, a fold-out desk and a single-framed sketcher. Younger, with a dragon perched on her wrist, eyes bright with belief. The memory made her chest ache. She glanced at the door. Outside, station life thrummed. Footsteps, hover carts, the distant drone of announcements. It would be a normal day if such a thing still existed. Then her cum light blinked green. One message, uncoded. She frowned. Only one man would bypass encryption like that. FROM, the time captain subject. Breakfast, freight deck C. No coordinates, no signature. He was testing whether she'd come. She told herself she wouldn't, and went anyway. The freight deck smelled of coolant and roasted calf seed. Vendors sold hand pies beside repair drones. Travelers passed with tired eyes and armfuls of cargo. Evelyn found the captain at a corner stall, sipping something dark from a metal cup. He looked impossibly calm, the way gravity wells look calm before a ship crosses their event line. "You're early," he said. "You're predictable," she countered. He smiled faintly. "Then we're both improving." She took the opposite seat. Ember perched on the bench beside her, wings folded tight, while Lumen wound around her wrist like living jewelry. The stall-keeper glanced once and decided not to ask questions. "You sent a message," she said. "That's dangerous. So's ignoring one," he replied. "The man we caught yesterday had more friends. 3 of them vanished from their registered quarters overnight." "Vanished?" "Off-grid," he said. "Which means they found new work or new orders." Evelyn stirred her drink absently. "You said 9 days. How many left?" 8 now, he said. "And I intend to use everyone." He slid a small holokip across the table. When she activated it, a miniature image bloomed in the air, a set of coordinates orbiting a dying star. The system tag read Eclipse Era 9. "That's abandoned territory," she said. "The kind you use for hiding or dying." "Or both," he said quietly. "But it's where your name keeps appearing." Her pulse jumped. "Someone's using my identity?" "Yes, to buy neural cores and biothermal tanks. They're building something, and they're using your registry as cover." She leaned back, trying to breathe through the knot in her throat. I never gave clearance. I know, he said. That's why I need you there. She laughed once, brittle. You don't need me, Captain. You need a weapon. He held her gaze. I have one. I need someone who knows how not to use it. The dragons shifted, uneasy. Ember's tail flicked like a pulse. Evelyn felt a shiver pass between them, fear, recognition, memory. She remembered the Morrow Spire's explosion, how the captain had stood in the fire's reflection, unburned, and how his eyes had carried centuries in their depths. She had once thought time travel was magic. Now she knew it was guilt-shaped into mathematics. If we go, she said, we go on my ship. He inclined his head. Agreed. And the dragons come. I expected no less. She rose. Then I'll meet you at Dock 17 in 2 hours. If you're late, I'll assume you changed your mind. I don't change my mind, he said softly. She paused, turning half away. Everyone does. That's what time is for. Dock 17 was quieter than usual. The dockhands were shadows against the glare of engine light. Their voices came filtered through static as they moved containers. Evelyn's ship waited at the far end, a slender courier vessel named Silverwake, its hull patched with mismatched panels that caught light like scales. Inside, the cabin smelled of oil, ozone, and lavender resin. The dragons leapt to their stations automatically. Ember coiled on the power conduit. Lumen folded into the co-pilot's nest. Evelyn ran pre-flight checks with mechanical precision, each tap of her fingers steadying her thoughts. She was ready when the captain arrived, cloak folded, eyes distant as if he'd just stepped out of another century. He paused at the threshold. Permission to board? She arched a brow. You're learning manners now. I'm learning trust, he said. She didn't answer, only gestured toward the co-pilot's seat. The engines rumbled awake, low and throaty. Beyond the viewport, the hangar gates peeled open like steel petals, revealing the deep dark beyond. Destination locked, she said. Eclipse Era 9, he nodded. Engage. Silverwake slipped into space with a sound like the universe inhaling. Stars smeared into lines, then folded inward. Evelyn had done hundreds of jumps before, but this one felt different. The edges of reality tugged as if recognizing the man beside her. Time didn't flow around the captain. It bent to accommodate him. When the ship settled into sublight, she exhaled slowly. You didn't tell me how bad it is. He stared at the starlit void. I didn't want to guess wrong. Guess now. He turned toward her. If someone is replicating your neural signature, they're not building machines. They're building copies. Her blood went cold. Copies of me? Of your consciousness, he said. Your empathy patterns, your psychic bonds with the dragons, things you think are instinct. The words hit like impact shock. Evelyn gripped the console. That's impossible. My link with them isn't recorded, it's born. Not to a time thief, he murmured. Someone could have extracted echoes from alternate timelines, where your story ended differently. That's how they found your name. Ember hissed, scales brightening. Lumen uncurled, pressing its warm snout against Evelyn's wrist. The dragons felt her fear before she could hide it. Why me? She whispered. The captain looked down. Because you survived what most don't. Because something in you resists every rewrite. The silence between them thickened until it almost had gravity. Outside, stars wheeled past like slow comets. Evelyn traced a trembling hand over the console, then over Lumen's scaled back. So, she said finally, voice rough but steady, we find whoever's stealing my shadow. The captain's lips curved, not quite a smile. Exactly. And when we do? He met her eyes, calm and dangerous. Then we make time regret it. The ship drifted out of hyperspace like a silent arrow, trailing soft blue light that vanished into the dark. Silverwake coasted toward Eclipse Era 9, a forgotten world half buried in its own debris field. Broken satellites circled the dead star like vultures, and fragments of failed colonies glimmered faintly as the system's last light flickered through them. Evelyn sat forward in the pilot's chair, the reflection of shattered moons dancing across her eyes. "Looks like a graveyard," she murmured. The time captain's voice was low, steady. "Graveyards tell stories. The trick is listening before something notices you're alive." She shot him a sidelong glance. "You always talk like that?" "Only when time starts whispering," he said. Ember and Lumen stirred at the tension that thickened the air. The dragons hated dead worlds. Evelyn could feel their unease pulsing in the back of her mind, a kind of static, like hearing someone hum a wrong note. She reached out with her thoughts and felt them steady. "Scan for power signatures," she said. "Already did," the captain replied. "One faint pulse near the equator. Too rhythmic for natural decay." "Then that's where we're going," he hesitated. "Eclipsera's surface isn't kind to visitors. Radiation pockets, unstable gravity wells," she cut him off. "You said my name was being used down there. If they're stealing me, I want to look them in the eyes." For a moment, something raw flickered across his face: admiration, fear, maybe both. "Then we'll need stealth descent," he said. The silver wake cut through the planet's upper atmosphere, hull trembling as molten clouds streaked by. Outside, the landscape unfolded in colorless plains of glass and ash. Ruins of a research colony sprawled across the horizon. Skeletal domes, broken pylons, 1,000 ghosts of technology. "Landing sequence ready," Evelyn said. "Keep the shields low," he replied. "We don't want to announce ourselves." They touched down in silence. The landing gear hissed against sand that glittered like crushed stars. Evelyn unstrapped, slipped on her armored coat, and let Ember crawl onto her shoulder. Lumen perched on the captain's arm, curious and cautious both. The air outside was thin and electric. Dust danced in spirals that never touched the ground. Evelyn could taste iron and memory in the wind. "Something's still running," she said. He nodded. "The power source is under the main lab. And it's recent." She frowned. "Meaning?" "Meaning someone's here." They moved through the ruins together, their footsteps muffled by ash. Half-collapsed corridors stretched ahead, illuminated only by their wrist lights and the dragon's faint glow. Occasionally a monitor flickered, showing ghostly images, a scientist's log, a fragment of an old warning, a half-erased face that looked almost like hers. Evelyn froze. "Did you see that?" The captain tilted his head toward the screen. "Yes, and I wish I hadn't." The image stabilized for half a second. A woman. Elven, eyes bright but wrong. A faint digital shimmer crawling across her features. She smiled into the static. "Subject number 03 Evelyn prototype fully synchronized. Neural bond achieved. Dragons responsive. Proceeding with phase 2. The screen snapped to black. Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. "Prototype." The captain's hand flexed on his sidearm. "Clones, not copies, fabrications built from stolen echoes." Her pulse hammered. "She wasn't me." "No," he said, quietly firm. "She was built to replace you." They descended deeper into the lab. Each level grew colder, the walls humming with faint power. When they reached the final chamber, the door was sealed with glowing runes that looked both ancient and mathematical. The captain examined them, brow furrowed. "This is time-locked," he said. "Whoever built it knew how to weld minutes together. Can you open it?" "Yes, but opening it means stepping into their sequence. They'll know we're here." Evelyn drew in a breath. "Then make it quick." The captain traced a pattern across the runes, his fingers moving like a musician's. The symbols pulsed, flickered, and dissolved. The door slid open with a sigh that echoed through the compound. Inside was light. Rows of crystalline tanks lined the walls, each filled with liquid gold and suspended shapes, some humanoid, some not. The air was thick with a low vibration that trembled in Evelyn's bones. Ember hissed. Lumen's wings spread in warning. In the center of the room stood a dais, and on it a console bearing her name. Evelyn Starbloom, primary sequence. Her knees weakened. What did they do? The captain moved closer, scanning the readouts. They built temporal mirrors. Every time you made a choice, they recorded the versions of you who didn't. Every what-if is stored here, in glass. Evelyn stared at the tanks, horror dawning. Inside one, she saw herself as a soldier, armor gleaming. In another, as a scientist. In another, as a corpse. "They're alive," she whispered. "Not quite," the captain said. "They're echoes waiting for activation." "By who?" He didn't answer. His gaze had shifted toward the far corner where a figure was stepping out of shadow. It was her, but older, sharper, eyes the same, but hollowed of softness. "Welcome home," the other Evelyn said. Her voice was velvet and blade. "You took long enough." The captain drew his weapon. "Identify yourself." The older Evelyn smiled. "Oh, Captain. You of all people should recognize a paradox when you see one." Evelyn felt the ground tilt under her. "You're from another time?" "Another ending," the echo said. "The one where you died saving him. I couldn't accept that outcome, so I rewrote it." "You're stealing people's lives," Evelyn said. "You're stealing mine. I'm preserving us," the echo said softly. "They will erase us otherwise. The Council, the Time Authority, all of them. They call us anomalies." The captain's voice was low, almost mournful. "And how many have you erased to save yourself?" The echo's smile faltered. "Enough to remember every face." Evelyn took a step forward, her dragons coiling in warning. "You can't fix what's broken by fracturing it more." The echo tilted her head. "Maybe not. But you can replace what's too afraid to fight." Then the tanks began to open. A surge of golden light filled the room, and the air tasted like burned sugar and storm. Evelyn's dragons roared not loud, but ancient, deep. The time captain grabbed her arm. "Run," he said. The floor split with a sound like tearing time. They ran behind them. The echoes began to move. The corridor shook as if the planet itself were trying to wake. Dust fell from the ceiling in shimmering sheets, and alarms pulsed like a heartbeat. Evelyn sprinted through the collapsing hallways, the time captain close behind, dragons streaking above their heads in flashes of bronze and silver light. Behind them, the echoes stirred copies of her, drawn from timelines that had never been meant to touch. Some stumbled like newborns. Others moved with terrifying certainty. Their eyes glowed with the same storm gray as hers, but empty of the warmth that anchored her to herself. Evelyn's lungs burned. "How many are there?" "Too many," the captain replied, his voice calm despite the chaos. "They're phasing in from adjacent probabilities." "She's breaking the timeline's containment." A concussive wave rippled through the walls. Evelyn stumbled, but caught herself on a railing slick with condensation. The metal groaned. Ember darted in front of her, wings flaring, exhaling a ribbon of plasma that burned through a falling girder. Lumen circled back to the captain, landing on his shoulder, its glow pulsing in rhythm with his steady heartbeat. "She's weaponizing herself," he said. "Every version of you that ever existed." Evelyn swallowed hard. "Then we stop her before they all become real." They burst into the surface courtyard, what had once been a landing pad, now cracked and glassed over. The sky had gone violet gray, streaked with static lightning that forked horizontally, refusing gravity. The silver wake waited at the far end, engines humming, drawn to their cum beacon. Evelyn turned back toward the ruins. The older version of her, the echo, emerged through the dust like a ghost wrapped in light. Around her, the other Evelyns moved in slow unison, dozens of them, a silent army of reflections. "You can't stop inevitability," the echo said, voice resonant and wrong. "Every time you breathe, the universe asks how it ends." "I'm just giving it an answer." "You're giving it noise," Evelyn snapped. "You're tearing apart what little balance we have left." The echo tilted her head. "You sound like him." The captain stepped forward. "Then you know what that means." He lifted a device from his belt, a polished Zisk inscribed with shifting runes. Time itself seemed to recoil from it. "Chronostabilizer," he said quietly to Evelyn. "It will seal this fracture, but it needs a fixed anchor." Someone it can rewrite around. Evelyn's pulse spiked. Meaning? Meaning one of you stays, the echo smiled. And you think she volunteer? Evelyn didn't hesitate. If it ends this, yes. The captain turned sharply. Don't. You don't know what it will do. She met his eyes. Neither do you. But we can't keep running from versions of ourselves. The echo laughed a sound like breaking glass. You really are me, she said. The naive part. Maybe, Evelyn said softly. But I'm the part that still believes in tomorrow. She stepped forward, drawing both dragons with her. Ember's scales flared red gold. Lumen's wings unfolded in blinding white. Together they formed a light so fierce the shadows themselves recoiled. Dragons of the heart and of flame, she whispered, voice steady. You're not my weapons, you're my truth. The dragons roared as one. The energy field that had been building in the courtyard shattered outward, sending shockwaves that cracked the ground beneath their feet. Evelyn's reflections faltered, their forms flickering like dying projections. The echo's eyes widened. What are you doing? Ending your loop, Evelyn said. She thrust her palms forward, channeling the dragon's fire into the stabilizer the captain had dropped. The device ignited, threads of blue and gold wrapping around her like ribbons. The captain lunged to reach her, but time-stuttered frames collapsing out of sequence. Evelyn! He shouted, his voice distorted. She looked at him through the glare, tears streaking her ash-stained face. Tell me something real, she said. He met her gaze. You are. The light consumed them both. When sound returned, it came as a whisper. Wind. The smell of rain. Evelyn opened her eyes. The world was quiet again. The sky had turned soft blue, the ruins nothing more than outlines in the sand. The dragons hovered above her, alive but dimmed, their bodies flickering faintly like reflections in water. She sat up. The captain knelt nearby, pale but breathing. He looked around, disbelief in his eyes. It worked. What did? She asked. The paradox is gone, he said. The other timelines, they've collapsed back into this one. Evelyn scanned the horizon. The echo was gone. The tanks, the light, the nightmare all erased like chalk under rain. Then it's over? He hesitated. Not entirely. From his coat, he pulled the stabilizer. Its surface had changed, no longer a disk, but a crystal sphere containing faint motes of gold. The energy condensed into this, he said. And it's keyed to you. Evelyn touched it carefully. For a moment, she saw herself inside tiny echoes of choices, possibilities, fragments of what she could have been. All quiet now. So what am I? She asked softly. Still you, the captain said. Just a little more whole than before. She laughed a tired, broken sound, but real. And you? He smiled faintly. Out of time as always. Ember landed on her knee. Lumen wrapped around her shoulder, humming low. The dragon's warmth seeped into her, grounding her in the present. You said one of us had to stay, she said. Which one did? He looked at her for a long time. The one who wanted to live. They sat in silence, watching as dawn crept over the wrecked planet, turning the glass fields into rivers of light. Finally, Evelyn spoke. What happens now? He stood and offered her a hand. Now we leave before the universe realizes we cheated it. She took his hand and rose. The Silver Wake's engines hummed, calling them home. As they walked toward the ship, Evelyn glanced once more at the horizon. The air shimmered faintly there, as if someone were watching, a shadow shaped like her, smiling before fading to dust. Goodbye, she whispered. The time captain looked back at her. What was that? Nothing, she said. Just time saying thank you. They boarded the ship together. The Silver Wake rose through the fractured sky, leaving Eclipse Era 9 and its ghosts behind. From orbit, the planet looked almost peaceful, its glass plains catching sunlight like an ocean of mirrors. But Evelyn couldn't shake the echo that still whispered behind her ribs, faint as starlight. The time captain stood at the navigation console, watching the readouts flicker. Course? he asked. She hesitated. Anywhere that isn't dying. Then we'll have to invent it, he murmured. Ember and Lumen were silent, wings tucked close. Even they seemed changed, more aware, more solemn. The stabilizer sphere lay between them on the console, its core pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Each pulse reflected faint glimpses of faces, alternate Evelyn's, fragments of timelines now sleeping inside it. Evelyn reached out, fingertips brushing the glass. They're still in there. Echoes, the captain said. Memories of what could have been. They're not alive, but they remember being. Then maybe I owe them something, she said. A better ending. He looked at her, eyes shadowed with centuries of things unsaid. You gave them one already. You survived. Hours passed in the hum of hyperspace. Evelyn sat cross-legged on the deck, her dragons curled beside her. Lumen's breath glowed faintly blue. Ember's tail flicked in a rhythm that matched the ship's engines. You ever think, she asked quietly, that maybe we weren't meant to win? That every timeline breaks because some stories just don't fit? The captain turned from the viewport. Stories don't fit because people try to end them too soon. She smiled at that. You sound like someone who's rewritten a few. Too many, he admitted. Why? He paused, eyes distant. Because I couldn't stand to lose the people who reminded me time isn't everything. Evelyn studied him. And did you lose them anyway? He nodded once. Every version of me did. Until now. The words hung in the air between them, soft as gravity. Evelyn looked away first, toward the stabilizer sphere, still glowing faintly in the half-light. Maybe, she said, this time we both learned to stop fighting the clock. When the Silverwake docked at Orion spoke again, the concourse was quiet. The do not date notice that had once flashed across every holoscreen was gone, replaced by nothing at all, just the endless shimmer of departure schedules. Evelyn stepped out first, the dragons perched like living ornaments of fire and light. The captain followed, coat swaying, eyes scanning the crowd as if half expecting time to tug him backward again. No alarms, no watchers, no shadows. Feels strange, Evelyn said, voice low. Like the universe exhaled. It did, he replied. You just didn't hear it before. They walked side by side through the terminal. People turned to look not at her, exactly, but at the feeling that something impossible had brushed past. Where will you go? He asked. She smiled faintly. There's a colony on Arcadia Belt that needs dragon handlers, somewhere quiet. Somewhere real. And if time calls you again, I'll let it leave a message. He chuckled softly. You make defiance sound like an art form. It's an elven thing, she said. At the gate, she stopped. You're not coming, are you? He shook his head. There are still fractures to mend. But maybe someday I'll find a world that doesn't need fixing. She stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking to a breath. If you do, don't rewrite it. He smiled, small and sad. I'll try. Evelyn took his hand. You never answered my first question. Which one? When I posted that notice, she said softly. Why did you reply? His gaze held hers, steady, timeless. Because challenge accepted isn't just words. It's a promise. They stood there for a heartbeat longer, the station lights painting gold across their faces. Then she turned away, dragons gliding after her like living comets. The time captain watched until she disappeared into the crowds, then looked down at his wrist display. The stabilizer sphere's signal pulsed once, faint but steady. A timeline held. A story survived. He smiled to himself. Challenge completed. Epilogue weeks later, a small file surfaced on the public net unsigned, untraceable. A short story, told in clean prose, about a woman who warned the universe not to love her. And the man who ignored it anyway. It ended simply, time does not heal. It remembers differently. And beneath it, a single line. For Evelyn Starbloom, who taught the future how to breathe. If you enjoyed this journey through time, love, and defiance, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more epic HFY Sci-Fi stories. Your support helps these stories keep traveling across the stars.